Okay, let's unpack this. Today, we're doing a deep dive into a document with a pretty provocative title.
Yeah, 30 questions you need to ask yourself if you still haven't found the relationship you want. It definitely catches your attention.
It does, and that title signals this isn't about, dating tips necessarily.
No, it's a call to look inward, which is exactly what we want to do in this deep dive, right? Pull out those key insights, the real nuggets of wisdom from these questions.
Exactly. What's the source really saying is important when you're reflecting on, well, finding the relationship you want?
And these questions, they're not just a checklist, are they? They feel more like prompts.
Prompts for self-discovery, yeah. And maybe offering a different way to think about love, maybe challenging some existing ideas.
I like that it pushes past the superficial stuff right away. It
Yeah.
sort of sets the stage saying, look, the search starts inside.
Which takes us right to the first few questions, challenging those fundamental beliefs we might not even know we have.
It kicks off strong. Question 1 asks, do you think of relationships as something you earned for being good enough, or something you develop when you're strong enough to open your heart?
That's a really powerful contrast right from the start.
It is. It frames the whole thing. Is love a prize for being good, or is it something you build through vulnerability?
And how does the source suggest that basic belief shapes, well, everything else?
Well, if you think it's earned, the source implies you're probably focused on presenting this perfect image, right? Always trying to prove you're good enough.
Okay.
But if you see it as something you develop by opening your heart, then the focus shifts to growth, connection, building strength
And that connects to the next one.
directly. Question 2 asks, what does love mean to you? Is it just a feeling, companionship, comfort, direction? It challenges you to define it beyond something simple.
So it's not just asking if you want love, but what you actually think love is. And that definition matters a lot, according to the source.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Your definition shapes what you look for, how you act. And it ties straight into question 12 later. Do you think a great relationship is something you find or something you develop and strengthen over time?
Ah, the find versus develop idea again.
Exactly. If you think you find it, you're waiting for that lightning bolt. If you think you develop it, you're focused on effort and growth. The source is basically saying, get clear on these core beliefs first. Your internal map dictates the journey.
It flips things, doesn't it? From just searching outside to understanding your own internal framework first. Okay, let's move into that inner work then, self-awareness, readiness.
Right, and this is where the questions get, well, even more personal, maybe a bit confronting.
Like question 4.
It asks, if the love of your life would reflect all of your unhealed issues, mirror your flaws, and bring your deepest insecurities to light, would you be ready to be in a relationship with them?
Wow. Okay. That really repositions the idea of a relationship.
It does. It's not just comfort and joy. It's potentially a mirror for, well, for your stuff.
So what's the point the source is making there? Why ask that?
It seems to view relationships, even the great ones, as these powerful engines for growth. They show you what needs healing. So the source is asking, are you actually ready for that level of intensity, that vulnerability? Because it sees that as part of real intimacy.
Okay. And then question 5 looks at how you interact more generally.
Yeah, it asks, do you try to relate to other human beings, or do you try to exert superiority? Do you want to connect or seem impressive? Do you engage to learn or to sell someone on your way of thinking?
So getting at authenticity versus performance, are you trying to genuinely connect, or is it always about boosting your ego or proving something?
Exactly. The source implies how you are generally is how you'll be in a relationship, which links to questions 18 and 19.
Which are about needs.
Right. Are you aware of what your needs are in a long-term relationship? Are you willing to advocate for those needs? Or would you forego doing so for the sake of seeming more likable?
That's huge. Self-advocacy versus just wanting to be liked. The source really stresses knowing and saying what you need, even if it feels awkward.
It does. Even if you worry, it makes you less likable.
But how does the source suggest you figure out your needs if you aren't sure? Does it say?
That's a fair question. It doesn't give like a 5-step plan in these questions specifically. But the act of asking these questions about your interaction style, about facing your issues, that seems to be the starting point.
Ah, so the reflection itself is the beginning of the process.
That's what it implies, yeah.
Yeah.
The source suggests asking is the start of finding the answer.
So this whole section is really asking, have I done the internal work? Am I ready for the vulnerability, the self-reflection? Do I show up authentically? Do I actually value my own needs enough to speak up for them?
Precisely. The source seems to say that without understanding your own patterns, your issues, your needs, you're not really set up to build something solid with someone else. Your internal state affects your ability to connect.
Okay, speaking of connecting, let's shift from looking inward to, well, taking action. This next bunch of questions are about agency, getting out of your comfort zone.
Yeah, the source gets pretty direct here. Questions 6 and 7 ask, are you thinking about your love life more than you're actually living it? Have you developed a plan? What would it look like? What would you need to do? What could you try? Where could you go?
That's a real challenge to just waiting around and wishing. Stop thinking, start planning, start doing.
And it doubles down with question 11. If you decided to take control of your relationship destiny today, as opposed to just waiting for it to happen when it's meant to, what would you start doing differently?
That phrase, waiting for it to happen when it's meant to, really highlights the passivity the source is pushing against.
Definitely. Stop waiting for fate. Start making moves.
But if someone is stuck in that waiting pattern, what's the fear the source suggests they need to face?
It seems to point towards the discomfort of, putting yourself out there, risking rejection, feeling awkward. It tackles this in questions 8 and 9.
All right, read those.
Is the prospect of online dating, being set up, generally putting yourself out there less comfortable than the idea that you could possibly spend the next few years by yourself? Are you open about the fact that you're looking for love? If you're trying to play it like you're cool being single, you're going to miss out.
Ouch. But fair point.
Yeah.
Is avoiding the discomfort of action actually costing you more in the long run? And it calls out pretending you're fine, being single if you're not, says that act closes doors.
Yeah.
So the nugget here is intentionality isn't just about a plan, it's about being willing to be uncomfortable, vulnerable enough to actually do the plan.
That's exactly it. The source suggests the discomfort of action is often a smaller price to pay than the comfort of inaction, which might lead to staying alone longer than you want. Being open, being visible, presented as necessary steps.
Okay, let's shift gears again. Something loads of people struggle with, especially if things aren't happening on their preferred timeline. Comparison and self-worth.
Yes. The source hits this directly with question 13. Do you believe that people who are more beautiful, successful, smart, talented, or in other ways superior have more love than you ever could?
That's the classic comparison trap, right? Assuming others are just inherently more deserving or capable of love based on, well, superficial stuff.
And the source immediately challenges you to fact-check that belief in questions 14 and 15. Have you ever taken an honest look at the people around you who have love and evaluated them on that same scale? If you did that, what would you find?
It's forcing you to look around and ask, does that assumption actually match reality? Are the people you know in happy relationships really all ticking those superior boxes? Or is it much more mixed, more human?
Exactly. The source seems to be guiding you to see that love isn't some prize only for the perceived elite. And then it brings in another angle with questions 24 and 25.
How so?
It asks, do you assume other people are doing you a favor by giving you love? Do you ever think about the fact that they likely are just as hungry for love?
That's powerful. About mutual desire, shared vulnerability. It challenges that feeling of being somehow less than, or that someone's doing you a favor by choosing you.
Right. It suggests that most people, whatever they look like on the outside, are also seeking connection. They're just as hungry for love as you might be.
So the takeaway is that this whole comparison game is flawed. It uses dodgy metrics and ignores the fact that wanting connection is pretty universal. It creates this weird, unhelpful power dynamic.
It really does. Believing others are superior or that you're just lucky someone pays attention to you, it creates an imbalance. It stops you seeing potential partners as equals who also have needs, desires, maybe insecurities too. The source wants you to break down that favored versus favor-doer thing.
Okay, now for some maybe surprising takes on connection itself and maybe even the value of independence.
Yeah, the source makes a really bold statement in question 16, which would it blow your mind to learn that relationships aren't just nice. They are the stitching that keeps the patchwork of this entire damn world together, and that spending time and energy on them would not only be essential, but crucial to you fulfilling your highest purpose.
Whoa. Okay. That's a huge reframe, not just a nice to have, but essential to purpose, to the fabric of the world, according to this source. Putting relationships right up there with everything else that matters.
It's a massive claim about how fundamental connection is.
Yeah.
But then, almost immediately, there's a contrast in question 17.
What's that?
Would it blow your mind to learn that even people who are surrounded by friends in seemingly happy relationships are sometimes still cripplingly lonely because it's a matter of how you connect, not who you have around.
So it's not just having people, it's the quality of the connection that counts. You can be lonely in a marriage, lonely in a crowd if the connection isn't real.
Precisely. The source draws a sharp line between just being around people and having true, meaningful connection. And this leads into question 21. Would it surprise you to know that the most overlooked key to a happy, healthy relationship is the belief that even if said relationship dissolved, you could still carry on as a functioning, thriving human being?
That sounds totally backwards at first glance. The key to a healthy relationship is believing you'd be okay without it.
Yes, the source really emphasizes independence within the search and the relationship. It suggests codependency actually harms the connection. And this aligns perfectly to questions 22 and 23, which offer a different perspective on being single.
How so?
It asks, could it be possible that you're not alone right now? Because there is something profound that you must discover, and it is only knowable through solitude. If you knew that the love of your life was on their way, what would you do with the nights you have alone? Writing your book or scrolling through Facebook? Developing relationships with friends or envying people? Learning to meditate or taking a swig of wine?
So being single isn't necessarily a waiting room or a failure, but maybe an essential phase for discovering something important on your own.
That seems to be the idea.
And what you do with that time matters hugely, whether you use it constructively or just distract yourself.
That's exactly what the source seems to suggest. It's presenting this complex picture. Yes, relationships are vital, maybe even fundamental, but the quality of connection is key. And crucially, being able to thrive independently is actually central to a healthy dynamic, single or partnered. The single time can be valuable, purposeful, if you treat it as discovery, not just waiting.
Okay, let's wrap up with the final batch of questions. These really seem to hammer home the source's view of relationships as ongoing work and maybe the demanding nature of growth within them.
They do. Question 26 asks something quite simple but profound. Do you ever think about what you can give to a relationship as opposed to what you want to take?
A basic shift in mindset, yeah, from being a consumer to being a contributor.
And question 27 follows up. Are you committed to a lifetime of growing with another human being? Or is your mental image of love something that allows unconditional acceptance? That is, in reality, complacency.
Ooh. Love as active growth, not just static comfort or acceptance that stops you both evolving. Is your idea of love actually just settling?
The source clearly prefers dynamic growth. Then comes question 28, which is less a question and more an instruction.
Right.
Are you willing or ready to let go of every preconceived notion you had about how love would come, what it would look like, and what your partner would be like? You need to.
It actually says you need to. No wiggle room. The source insists on total flexibility, dropping the rigid fantasies about the one or how it's supposed to happen. Why is that so non-negotiable for the source?
Because, it seems, holding on to that fixed picture stops you seeing what's actually real, who's actually in front of you, what opportunities are actually there. Your expectations might be the roadblock, which leads into question 29.
Okay.
What are you willing to suffer for?
You suffer over your fears,
Yeah.
your work. What about the one thing that's actually worth it? Are you willing to give it your all, fail a few times, and then reach the end? Love, commitment, only to find that dating was the walk before the run, the beginning of the real work. Wow, that reframes the whole process, search and relationship, as requiring effort, maybe even struggle. Something worth suffering for, maybe meaning working hard for, unlike suffering over fears. And it flat out says dating is just the warm-up for the real work.
It's a very pragmatic view, isn't it? Almost gritty. Love needs effort, persistence, not just ease. And it all culminates in that final question, number 30.
Which is?
Are you ready to let it gut you and help make you the person you were intended to be?
That is intense. Positioning love, the whole journey, as something potentially profound, maybe painful, but ultimately transformative. Not just about finding happiness, but about being fundamentally changed.
Exactly. So the overall message from these last questions is pretty demanding. It's not find the perfect match, float away on a cloud of easy acceptance. No.
It's deep self-reflection, challenging core beliefs,
Taking uncomfortable action, ditching the expectation.
committing to lifelong growth with someone.
Yeah, and seeing the search and the relationship as this demanding, transformative journey that kind of strips you down and helps build you into who you're meant to be.
So we've walked through these 30 questions, starting with those foundational beliefs. What is love? Is it earned or developed?
Then looking inward, readiness, authenticity, facing our own stuff.
Right. And from there, the push to move from thinking about love to actually living the search, taking
Mhm.
action, being uncomfortable, being visible.
We hit the comparison trap, the doing me a favor idea, the importance of mutual desire.
And those interesting contrasts. Connection as the stitching of the world, but how you connect matters more than who's around.
And the value of independence within connection, even finding purpose in solitude.
Finally, landing on that demanding call for the relationship itself. Don't just take. Commit to growth, not complacency. Let go of all preconceived notions.
And view the work involved as worth it, leading to potential transformation.
The source isn't really giving answers, is it? Like you
Yeah.
said, it's a framework for asking yourself deeper questions.
Exactly. It's pushing you to dig into your beliefs, your readiness, your fears, your intentions.
So, for you listening, maybe take some time with these. What stood out? What felt prickly? Which questions hit home?
Maybe it's that idea of relationships being crucial to purpose, or that connection quality trumps quantity.
Or maybe it's that challenging thought that thriving independently is key to a healthy relationship. Or that final, intense question. Are you ready to let love gut you to become who you're meant to be?
What really resonates with you from all this? Keep asking, keep digging. That's what this deep dive is all about.